As the Second World War ended, two nations, once allies, became enemies due to political and military tension. This formed what we call the Cold War that lasted till 1991. Around 45 years long, this was between two superpowers, the United States and its allies, and the Soviet Union and its allies. There was never any large-scale fighting directly between the two sides, though there were some regional wars in Korea, Vietnam, and Afghanistan. Then in the 1960s, Canada went through what was called the Quiet Revolution, which was a period of intense socio-political and socio-cultural change within the province of Quebec. Many of the elderly people disagreed with this movement, for it was breaking their ties with the church. But the young seemed to accept it. It gave them new opportunities in learning and in jobs. It wasn't long until October 5th, 1970, when members of the Quebec Liberation Front, also known as the FLQ, kidnapped James Cross. He was a British trade commissioner in Montreal. This was the start of the FLQ crisis. It was then followed with the kidnapping of Minister of Labour of the province of Quebec, Pierre Laporte, on October 10th in Montreal. It was then that on October 12th the military was sent to patrol Montreal. Then a couple of days later the FLQ negotiated the exchange of two hostages for political prisoners. During this time and the next couple of days FLQ were gaining support. This worried many Canadians, so on October 16th Prime Minister Trudeau and the government implemented the War Measures Act, an act that would give the rights to Canadian military and police to arrest people without warrant. The next day Pierre Laporte had been executed by the FLQ. They were to execute James Cross if they did not meet their demands. Their demands were the publication of the FLQ manifesto, the release of 23 political prisoners, an airplane to take them to either Cuba or Algeria, the rehiring of the mailmen, a voluntary tax of $500,000 to be loaded on the plane, and the name of the informer who had sold out the FLQ activists earlier on that year. Then on November 6th, police raided the hiding place of the FLQ's Chenier. 3 men escaped, but Bernard Lorté was arrested and charged with the murder of Pierre Laporte. Then on December 4th, James Cross was released by the FLQ. Then some of the members of the FLQ were flown to Cuba by the Canadian Air Force. It was then on December 23rd that the Prime Minister Trudeau announced the withdrawal of all troops from Quebec by January 5th, 1971. Before the FLQ crisis formed, the Parti Québécois was formed in 1968. It was founded by René Lévesque, who merged his Sovereignty Association movement with other French-Canadian separatists, within the largely French-speaking province of Quebec. The political group was unsuccessful in the elections of 1970 and 1973, but in 1976 won 71 seats of the 110 seats in the Provincial National Assembly. It was then in 1980 that Lévesque organized a referendum, trying to seek approval for Quebec's secession from Canada. They wanted to have a sovereign nation state while having an economic partnership with Canada, but it was rejected. Then the membership declined. Thereafter, separatist favored waned. Then in 1987, the party was then controlled by militant separatists. In the 1990s, they started rebuilding. By 1994, they had 77 out of 125 seats in the provincial election. They then in 1995 sought another referendum to ask voters in Quebec whether they should proclaim national sovereignty and become an independent state. The vote was close. 49.42% of the voters said yes, while 50.58% said no. Again, the proposal was not carried through.